What is up, everybody? Well, we are finally done with Santee Cooper. This is the 2020. We're back in the office. You know, I did a lot of these 2020s from the office, and we've done them on the road. We've been on the road so much. We're finally home. A little bit of a break, and we're going to do the 2020 right here in the office. What an amazing event. Santee Cooper, honestly, and obviously I missed the boat on this deal, but 100-pound bags. I mean, like literally two guys with over 100 pounds. Ridiculous. I cannot wait to go back, get a little redemption. You know, interesting fact about Santee. Santee Cooper is a lake that my dad grew up on and was in the military back when he was in his early 20s. And so he fished Santee Cooper. He was a fishing guide there, and he fished it for years. As much history as my dad's had at Santee Cooper, you would think that I've been there before myself, and that we probably, Dad and I have gone there on a few springtime fishing trips or gone fishing there a few times. But crazy enough, this is my first time fishing Santee Cooper. So I really didn't understand where all the hot spots were, how to get around. I mean, that lake is full of stumps. There's trails that you can take, and then there's trails they say don't take because you can tear everything up. Funny part of the story is that I talked to Dad like the last day of practice, and in my mind I was going to tell him where I'd found fish, and I was thinking he was going to say something like, "Oh wow, that's a great area. I always liked that area. Oh wow," or "I've caught big fish in that area," whatever, just some encouraging word, right? And so I tell Dad where I'm fishing. I go, "Hey Dad, I'm up in the area called Jack Slough and the area called the Swamp." And he goes, "Yeah, those are the two areas I actually didn't fish very much. I didn't like those two areas at all." I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had this weird feeling going into that tournament. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing here, but Dad said he didn't like this area. And again, that was 40 years ago. So before we get too far into this video, guys, I want to say a huge thank you for everyone supporting our channel. You guys have been awesome. You guys have been following us on Instagram and on Facebook. We've been doing lots of cool things, and on Fishbrain, of course. Click the subscribe button, guys. We're at 600 and something thousand subscribers. I want to hit 1 million. So we've got to step up the subscriber base. We need to share these videos out, and thank you so much for all the support. And I want to say a huge shout out to Mystery Tackle Box. Mystery Tackle Box is sponsoring this video, guys, and Mystery Tackle Box has been a great partner of mine. And I tell you, Mystery Tackle Box is so awesome, and here's why. Every single month, this box shows up to my house. This is the Elite box here, and it is absolutely full of tackle. Really cool stuff too, name brand stuff that hasn't even hit the shelf yet, stuff that perks your interest, things that maybe you wouldn't even maybe have bought at a tackle shop, and things that work, of course. So I mean, like, look at this box here. We got the Guggen jigs in here. We've got the 10,000 fish Zuchi bug. We've got 13 Fishing, which is a great brand of soft plastics here. Bill Lewis. We've got jerk baits, hooks, swim baits, guys, spinner baits. I mean, you name it, this box is full of all kind of cool name brand stuff. So, huge deal, and they've hooked us up. So they've given us a little 33% off code. So if you guys want to save big time, all you gotta do is click the link in the description down below. Huge shout out to Mystery Tackle Box for supporting us. And we are gonna be giving away these 3 boxes. This is 1 Elite box here and 2 Pro boxes here, full tackle. We're gonna pick 3 comments out in the comment section. So all you gotta do is just say, hey, love to try the Mystery Tackle Box. We're gonna pick 3 comments out. We're gonna ship these boxes to you guys. So good luck on that. It's awesome stuff. And again, if you've got a birthday coming up, you know, a special gift for somebody, graduation's right around the corner, all these people graduating. Let me tell you, if you know somebody graduating high school or college, this is a great gift to give them. Buy them a 6-month subscription or 1-year subscription to Mystery Tackle Box, and they'll get a bunch of baits, lots of cool tackle throughout the year. So thank you, Mystery Tackle Box, for supporting us and making some cool stuff. So Santee Cooper. All right, when I get there, it's super cold. The fish are getting knocked off the banks. The water temperature's falling like crazy. And I went the first day of practice, I literally launched the boat. And down in Potato Creek, which if you know how the tournament ended up, and Drew Cook and those guys, and where they fished was a lot in Potato Creek. So lo and behold, I rent a house in Potato Creek the first night there, and launched the boat in Potato Creek, and literally going out of the creek, I stop and I put the trolling down and literally see like a 7 or 8 pounder swim out. Matter of fact, we've got a little clip of this. This is what I saw in the first, just like 3 minutes of being at Santee. Let's just take a peek. Let's just see what we see, because this looks really good. Holy crap, there's that freaking 7-pounder right there. Oh my goodness, that's a big girl. There's another one right there. All right, so that should have been a sign, right? Like, I mean, it should have been like, okay, there's a lot of fish in Potato Creek. And I went on to fish throughout the day, but I went down to the lower lake and messed around and kind of never got in my groove that day, first day of practice. And Matt Airy spent some time in Potato Creek and was catching them, and lo and behold, he ended up making the cut, did really well in the tournament, matter of fact, out of that particular area. And the tournament was won in the back of Potato Creek as well. So a lot of big fish. I really missed the boat there on that. I looked back at that opportunity and I kept asking Matt, have you been back to the creek where we launched? And kind of like, I guess, seeing what he thought about it, and he never, whatever. I should have just went myself. I should have carved out some extra time. I had a sneaky feeling something was going on in there, but I didn't. Day 2 of practice, I went up the lake a little bit and fished up in the cypress trees and Jack Slough area and the swamp area. Started getting some bites, and some good bites too. Guys, I was flipping and skipping a tube, a bandito bug, and a wacky worm. And the wacky worm, I was skipping it on this setup right here. This is a 7.2 medium heavy, favorite jackhammer spinning rod. Awesome rod, by the way. 10-pound P-line X-braid. And I was actually skipping 15-pound P-line tactical for my leader. You know, it wasn't that I was worried about them seeing anything. I wanted that extra strength, so if they wrapped me up around a cypress tree, anything like that, I could get them out. I was fishing, the hook I was fishing, which worked out really well, is, and I haven't talked about my hook a lot this year. Let's see, I have them right here. Little Trocar, it's got the weed guard on it. Nice little hook, little short shank. That was a little getter right there. Got a lot of fish, caught a lot of fish on that thing. It didn't get hung up bad. It's really a great hook. It did a really good job. There's another long shank hook there that I used some as well. But that short shank trocar, little weedless wacky, was awesome. So that was my setup, pretty much a lunker log, green pumpkin blue glitter on that, and then you know, flipping. But here's what I want to tell you guys about the tournament, and I'm not sure how to grow as a fisherman with this, because the stars don't always line up the same way the next time I'm at that lake. But let me just throw it out there on what happened. Here's what happened, and I think I'm right. Big cold front comes, the fish up the river, Jack Slough, the swamp area, it's shallow. The water stayed a little warmer because the water stained up there. The water didn't drop in temperature as much. And number 2, there is 0 deep water for the fish to go. So the fish, even though it's a cold front, they're not gonna swim 5 miles out of that area to go find a little bit deeper water. They just hunker down. And so they were biting pretty good. The fish down the lake that are adjacent to deep water all the time, those fish slid off the banks, they stopped spawning, they slid off the trees, and they went out there and just kind of went into no man's land during the cold front. Then as the tournament started, we started having warm nights, warm days, and the fish started moving their way back to the bank lake, literally overnight. The problem is that the fish that were up in Jack Slough in the swamp area, which was again about 5 degrees warmer than down the lake, because anytime you're up a river, typically that river water, unless it's coming in from a lake above it, will be warmer. That river water is usually warmer. We're on a full moon, we're during a spawn, and what happened is that those fish in Jack's and in the swamp basically kept going with their cycle. Like, they kept spawning to some degree. They didn't really get knocked off. The ones down the lake got so knocked off, they started over. Like, they literally didn't just move off the beds. They had to just kind of start over. And that's why those guys were catching them so good, because those were fresh fish coming up, making fresh beds. The females were moving up. I mean, it was like the perfect storm of an opportunity for those guys that were fishing down the lake on that lower end. And for me, you know, I started off the first day of the tournament catching a really big fish right off the bat. I thought I could catch 22 to 25 pounds a day, because in practice I'm lifting up some nice 4 and 5 pounders, and I caught several. And Scott Canterbury and I were both fishing in that same area, and he was catching the mess out of them, and he's caught them in that swamp before. He's had some 30-pound bags in tournaments. So he was excited, and when he gets excited, I got excited, so we thought we were on the winning pattern. But because those fish kept going in their cycle all throughout that whole cold front, by the time the tournament started, the females had already kind of done their thing. Obviously, I can't see the females on the beds because it's water stained up there, but they've kind of gone through their cycle. So the first day of the tournament, I roll in there and the very first fish I catch was a big one, almost a 7-pounder. And I remember catching that fish thinking, dude, I'm gonna bust a 30-pound bag today. Take a look, this was my first fish of Santee Cooper. He's got one, it's a big one too. Oh, broke his line, broke his rod. And he got the fish. Ha ha! Good job, man. That was awesome. Broke his rod and landed the fish. If you look at my unit, I got a waypoint right there. I got another one right here. That's why I stopped on this one. I was like, well, if I don't hit this one over here, he's gonna possibly catch it. There's one on that tree right there. There he is. I thought it was that tree. Giant, dude. Absolute monster, dude.
Dude.
Bro.
Dude.
Bro.
That's it.
Dude, look, the hook fell out, bro. Thank you, Lord. I don't know how big that fish is, but it's big.
612. Dude. Put her on. This is Papa's side right here. That's for Dad.
Now that was a big one, 612. Remember, you heard me talking in the video right before that. One of the other anglers were on the next cypress tree point above me, and he had a big one on, and he was trying to boat swing it. It was like another 6-pounder, and his rod broke, and he had to hand line it in, but he got the fish in. So like, I'm watching this dude catch a 6. I catch a 6 or 7-pounder. I'm thinking, it's game over. Like, we're gonna crack them. We hit this perfect. And then from that moment on, it was like, small fish after small fish, 2-pounder, 2.5-pounder. And you know, look, you can't, I mean, obviously you saw the weights at Santee. 15 pounds is nothing. Like 15 pounds is what I was catching. I caught 17 and 16 or whatever it was. And I didn't even make a check. Finished 58th in the tournament. But those fish cycled through. The other thing that I was doing, which was fun, I did have some fun that second day, is I went real shallow in the back of those creeks, and those cypress trees were in like literally 1.5 feet of water. I would skip that lunker log all the way to the cypress trees and catch these fish and have to fight them through all the little sticks and everything. Here, take a look at a couple of these catches. This was fun. I kind of, look, if I can't get paid in the tournament, at least I had some fun catching some fish. Check this out. Oh, there's one. We're gonna crack them in here, dude. We're gonna crack them. Not a big one, but we're gonna catch a big one. We are gonna catch a big one doing this. Dude, they're on every one of these trees, bud. They're 2.7. We just need a look. He's up there eating bluegill. You can see a bluegill on his throat. Yep. That's so cool. 2.9. I mean, you see me holding the rod up high, like I'm trying to keep my line, you know, out of the bushes and stuff, and keep those fish coming. And I was catching 3-pounders and 3.5-pounders and stuff, but it just, they were post-spawn fish. You could see, and I knew I was in trouble that second day. I was like, post-spawn fish, these are not gonna weigh. They're only weighing 2.5 to 3 pounds, and I'm not gonna get the job done, so I need to leave. So I made the decision halfway through day 2 to pull the plug on it and run down the lake blind and try to find a big fish. And so I ran down the lake, ran into a couple little pockets, and couldn't see good, and just trying to find some bedding fish. And I finally ended up in this one little spot, and there at the end of the day, I caught a couple 3-pounders. I find this 8-pounder and a 3.5 or so perfectly under this mat, spawning right on the edge of this mat, under a mat, which is perfect. I can drape my line through the mat and yo-yo it up and down in the bed, and I'm thinking, okay, I can catch this fish. So I'm trying to catch her, and she's kind of getting interested, but not crazy. And I'm like looking at my watch. I've got 30 minutes left to fish, and I see her kind of cruise into the area where my bait is, and I saw her tilt a little bit, and something hit my bait, and she started swimming away under the mat, and my line was going away under the mat. So I was convinced she had it. I set the hook, and it wasn't her. It was a 3.5-pounder. And that was the dilemma. Like, do I keep the fish? I need the fish. That 3.5-pounder might get me in the check range. If the weights go down a little bit, it may keep me, in that check range. Or do I throw it back in hopes that I can catch this big one? So with only like 25 minutes to go, I opted to keep the 3.5-pounder because I didn't think that it would give me enough time to let that fish settle down, let the female to get settled. And at that point, the tournament was kind of over with, And so looking back, again, I'm not sure how I can say how I'll always do it different next time. But my point to this is, and I told Andrew Upshaw this the other day when he was in a tournament, spawning fish, and when you can see them on the bed, you know what I'm talking about. The male comes up in the shallows, makes a bed for a day and a half or 2 days. The female then moves up, the male courts the female finally comes in. It takes about a day for the female to kind of get acclimated to the bed. Then they spawn, and they roll around, and they spawn. And when that's happening, it's hard to catch the female, but they spawn. And then when it's done, the female will kind of hang out around the bed for a day or two, but not usually on it hardcore, just kind of around it. And they're not as aggressive. They're real aggressive when they first move up, like before they spawn, they're aggressive. And they're not aggressive at all while they're spawning. And then they're around the area for a day or so after they spawn. And then after that, they leave, and the male stays there and chases the bluegill off the beds. They protect the beds. They lose weight. The males don't eat much. That's why those post-spawn males get so skinny, because they're like literally chasing the bluegill all over the beds, and they just lose weight every day. And so not being able to see the fish and how they were acting throughout practice, but I think I hit that cycle just the way I described it. And I think that last day of practice, just so those fish were still around the beds, those females, but then the day of the tournament, they were kind of fizzling out, and that was all over with. So again, my point to that is, if you're on a bite like that, at least try to think about what cycle those fish are in. If you're catching big females, they're real aggressive, they're clean, they're fresh looking, that might be that's just the beginning part of it. Then if a couple days go by where they're hard to find, but yet you think they're spawning and you're still getting some bites on the males, just have to make some evaluations. And so that was for me a learning lesson. So the next time I'm fishing for sight fish in a tournament, whether I can see them or not, I'm gonna try to make that decision on what part of the cycle those fish are in, because you've only got a 3 or 4 day window. And if it doesn't line up with the tournament days, you can have a great practice and a bad tournament. That's kind of what happened to me. So that being said, going back, if we go back, I'll probably fish down the lake in that clear water. It was a lot of fun. Again, Mystery Tackle Box, thank you so much for all of the support that you guys have given us. And thank you, Favorite and P-Line and Trocar, for making some good stuff. Good Baits, of course. And guys, love you so much. Appreciate all the support, and we will see you soon. Bam.